This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. All right, ladies. Thank you so much for all of you being here today. This is great. Wonderful. You can see our project here. Um, the camera doesn't really look, doesn't look like I wanted it to look, okay? So with the camera. But it is like there's a top layer on a pillow, okay? And the top layer is this little flower, and it's composed of 8 different petals, okay? And those 8 petals are made using the circular attachment. And then the 9th circle is the center. It's bigger than the petals. They're made from those 8, I guess there's 16 7-inch squares, and then the center one is made out of a single 8-inch square. And the circular attachment is really a neat piece of equipment. It's been out for a long time, and I think it's very much underutilized. It comes with a CD, and on that CD is the directions for using it, and it comes with also a folder, but I couldn't find my folder. So I printed out the directions, and they're very, very good directions on how to make circles with it. It also comes with a set of, I'm going to turn them over so it doesn't glare so bad, 3 different templates for making flowers and shapes with it. And then there's 2 for those for making different kind of shapes, and then there's 1 for making different circles. And this little the fold out or the directions that are on the CD give you all of the information you need to be able to use those templates to make different shapes. And when the attachment first came out, Carol went to work, and thank you, Carol, and made a quilt with the circle. It's a wall hanging with the circle attachment using those templates and making all sorts of different shapes, and it turned out really cool. And directions are available if you're interested, I believe. Wait 1 second, I gotta clear. Okay, now I can see you again. So this is, you can see that there's a lot of different shapes and so forth that you can make with the circle attachment. It's kind of like when you used to use a compass in grade school and you would make all these different shapes with the compass. You'd make flowers and so forth. So that's what the circle attachment lets you do. And in addition to the directions on the CD, there's some tips and hints, and then there are some layouts for some different shapes and the directions for making those different shapes. Like there's a flower and a different kind of flower, some bubbles. This one I think is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is, they made a little handbag, and they used the circle tool to create different size circles on the outside of it as applique. It's pretty cool.
What size is the biggest circle it can do?
What's the size? And it's going to be, I'm going to tell you in metric, Elizabeth. It can go to a little over 10 inches, 26 centimeters.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh.
And there's 260 millimeters. If you're familiar with your hoops, your 260 hoop is 260 by 260 is about 10 inches. So theoretically, you could make a circle that size. And then
Judy?
just some other different ideas.
Judy, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So, you know, I went through this process when I first got this attachment, and the Sew-ciety tables make bigger ones. So if you need bigger ones, you can use the Sew-ciety table.
Okay, good point, because you do need support to the left side of the needle
Yes.
to
Okay.
make your big circles. Thank you, Lee.
Uh-huh.
And then my favorite part of the information on that CD is they give you things like this little giraffe and a pig and a monkey and some pandas. So it's kind of fun to look at those, and then I'm sure a lot of you can just take off from there and make your own shapes with it. Do that. Okay, looking at the attachment, it comes with a pin, which is basically just ordinary push pin. So if you should lose the one that came with it, just replace it from your office supplies with a push pin. The pin goes in the center of your fabric. This is where the foot of the machine is, and I'll show you all this in a minute again. These two little hooks, somebody has something on, a radio or a TV or a phone or something. These two little prongs here hook into your needle plate and hold your attachment in place. One thing that they advise against you using your scissors on your machine, don't touch your scissors button when you are using this attachment, because these prongs might interfere with that cutter on your machine. So you have to somehow put a piece of tape over your scissors button or something to keep you from using your automatic scissors when you're using your circular attachment. The markings on the attachment, let's see, can we see them without it glaring? Okay, the markings on there, the top row is in centimeters and the bottom row is in inches. And the little slider clicks into place, but it only clicks into place on the metric ones. It does not click into place on the inches one. So if you are using an inch mark, you have to be very careful that you don't slide that slider while you're sewing, because it can easily slip into a metric. So I just always use a metric measurement when I'm using my circular attachment. And these measurements, when you go all the way down to like 6 down here, the lowest one, that's 6 centimeters diameter. So then you are 3 centimeters away from your needle. Okay, you're not 6 centimeters away. It's giving you, and it says on here diameter. So it's giving you the measurement of the finished circle. Any questions on that? Okay, so let me get my camera reoriented here. And one other thing about this, when you have your pin in the attachment, do not, and it's on your machine, do not move this slider with the pin in it, because the pin extends beyond the bottom of the attachment and you could scratch the bed of your machine. So if you're going to adjust the slider when it's on your machine, be sure you take the pin out, adjust it, and then you can put it back. All right. Just a note of caution, you don't want to scratch up your machine. Okay, move camera. All right. Okie doke. So we're going to be just sewing today. So I'm in the sewing mode and I have my piping foot on. You can buy pre-made piping or you can make your own. I have a tendency to make my own because it's hard to find piping in the color and fabric that I want. And for the pillow today, I did use a print to make the pink piping, and the green is just a plain color. So I made my own piping, and there are 2 piping feet for the Viking and also for the Pfaff, and they are metal piping feet and there are clear piping feet, and I like the clear ones. The difference between the piping feet is, and it's going to be probably hard to see on the camera, but the groove that is in the piping foot, there's a mini piping foot for very small cords and a bigger groove for the regular piping, and the one with the bigger groove is the one that I'm using today. That groove is, the red line here is the where your needle is in the center position, and your groove is over to the left side of it, so that when you are stitching your piping, the needle is going to be right next to the cord in your piping. And when I make my own piping, I always move my needle over to the right a little bit when I am stitching the cord into the fabric, so that when I come back with my needle in the 0 position, then I am right next to the cord and I'm beyond that row of stitching that I put in to make the piping, so I don't have to worry about any of that stitching showing when I sew it into something. Any questions on that one? Okay, to put your attachment on, the attachment goes basically right here. There's 2 holes in your needle plate right next to your feed dogs. One here and one over here. All right. That's where these 2 little ears are going to fit. And if you just lay it there, it doesn't connect. So what you want to do is to put the right hand one in and hold it, and then just gently flex the attachment, and the left one will pop in, and then it's secured in your machine. All right. And until this project, I hadn't tried doing this, but it took a little practice to get it to work right. And part of my problem was that I did not use a very big cord when I made my piping. So the piping that I made for today has a little bit bigger cord, and hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to keep that in the groove, because as you're sewing this, your piping is going to not be visible. It's going to be between your 2 layers of fabric. So it's a little harder to keep it where it should be to make your circle. All right, so we want to find the center of our fabric. So what I suggested in the handout was that you take your two squares, right sides together, fold them in half one direction, and finger press a crease in the middle section, and then fold them in half the other direction and press a crease across there. Then you have some marks that you can put your pin in the center of your circle. The attachment is set at 14, I believe, let me make sure. Yeah, 14 centimeters, which is about 5.5 inches. So then I'm going to just put my pin into the slider on the attachment. Come on, camera. Okay. There we go. And once that's in there, the machine, as it sews, the fabric will just rotate in a circle. You do kind of need to make sure that it doesn't want to bunch up toward the pin. I like to keep my hand on it, and I like to sew very slowly to make sure that I keep things where they should be. So when you put your piping in between your pieces of fabric, you're going to line the cord of the piping up with a groove on your needle, so that when you put your foot down, that cord is sitting right under that groove, and it should follow along as you stitch. It would help to have both layers down. Sorry. Okay. Now, and I like to sew with my needle down. And I found that it helps to kind of keep your piping pulled over to the left-hand side rather than having it straight in front. And I managed to pull that out of there. Let's get it up and back in. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I keep hitting the camera. Okay, so as I sew, I'm going to sew slowly. I'm going to have my hand here to keep the two pieces of fabric flat. And I'm going to also keep my finger on the piping. You can see how it wants to push it to the center, and that would make my circle uneven. So it's much easier when you have the piping on top of the fabric and can see exactly what's happening. But I'm going to stop here and just take it out to show you. Okay, so what I've got here is my half circle with my piping. And if it totally drives you nuts trying to do this, then I would suggest that you sew it on one layer of fabric But if you're going to do just one layer of fabric, you should put some stabilizer underneath it, because the fabric, even though it's starched, doesn't have enough body. It's difficult to keep it flat. So when you make the circle for the center of the pillow, that's going to be just one layer of fabric and a layer of some sturdy tearaway stabilizer, so that it stays nice and flat as you're stitching the piping on that one. Okay. And when you're going to leave a section about this big unsewn when you make your petals, so you can, first off, so you can turn them right side out, and second, because that part of those petals is going to be covered by the center circle, so you don't have to have a complete circle on your petals. All right, and you will just trim off your piping even with the fabric once you've turned it. And to turn it, the easiest way to not have to clip curves and so forth, because you've got extra fabric here, is to just take a pair of pinking shears and trim your fabric so you're about 1/8 of an inch or so away from your seam, and then you don't have to clip your curve, because that gives you enough room to for the fabric to move however it needs to not make a lot of bulk in there. All right.
No, this is neat. Very neat.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about finishing the ends of the piping when you're making your petals. When you make your center circle, because the whole of the center circle is visible, you do have to concern yourself with how you're going to finish your piping. All right. And in the directions, it tells you you're going to sew your piping up until you have about, well, first off, let me back up 1 second here. You're going to start off with a nice clean cut of your piping. If you don't start off with a clean cut, it'll be okay, because they tell you to, it would help to have this in here. This is going to be an estimate. Okay. So I start off, and I'm going to leave a tail of at least 1/2 inch. An inch is even better. Okay, and I'm going to sew my piping down to my big circle for my center. And then when I get over to the other side and I'm finishing up my piping, sorry, I used two separate pieces here. I'm finishing up my piping. I'm going to stop when I have a space. I need to move there. I'm going to stop when I have a couple inches there. And then I'm going to, because I have too much, I'm just going to clip it off about 1.5 inches longer, or about where I started with my beginning end. And then I'm going to rip out my stitches so I can open it up. Come on. I'm going to rip the stitches back until I can see the cord. Okay, so now I can see where my cord is, and I can match up my two pieces, and I'm going to trim my beginning end, and then I'm going to trim my ending, the cord, just the cord in my ending end, so that when I put the two of them together, that the cord just meets. And I've got a little too much there, so I can just give that another little haircut. Then I'm going to fold my fabric that doesn't have cord in it back on itself and lay my beginning end in there. Come on, fold. Doesn't want to behave. All right, so I'm folding that over there. And pulling that inside. And then I just am going to all right. Okay. And then when I continue to sew where I ran off the piping, good job. Supposedly that would have made a neat finish. Okay, because you've folded the edge over and covered that beginning end with fabric. All right. So then you have a finished piece of piping around your center circle. And then when you take the stabilizer off, when you're sewing the piping on, it wants to kind of cup the fabric up, but that's okay because you're going to take the stabilizer off and then you're going to fold it so that the piping is on the edge and your raw edge is underneath your center circle. All right. So that's what you're doing with the circular attachment. The regular sewing part, you're starting off with two 15-inch circles of fabric, or two 15-inch squares, I'm sorry. And then there are instructions in your handout to fold their one piece. I said that two 15-inch squares. I was wrong. The one 15-inch square is really cut in half so you can put your zipper in it. And you can put any kind of zipper in that you want. The original instructions called for an invisible zipper. I didn't have one, so I just put a regular zipper in mine. And it's up to you. Your machines have very good tutorials about putting a zipper in if you are not sure about how to do it. But to assemble once you have your, let me move my camera back so I can talk. Once you have your petals all made and are ready to assemble them, I thought my petals needed a little bit of quilting on them, okay? And I did some free motion and then discovered when I put them together that not much of the back petal quilting showed. on when I put it together, and I just did a little bit of free motion quilting on the top petals. I did all that free motion, and then I took my solid 15-inch square and made a circle as they suggested in the instructions. That's on page 4. Then laid out the circle that I had made. That circle is also, once you've put your zipper in your back piece, it's still a square. You use that circle that you've cut for the top to cut a circle out of your back with the zipper in it. And then you take the plain circle and you lay your petals out on it. And you don't do anything with the center piece at this point. You lay your petals out on it like you want them, and then you're going and pin them in place, and then you're going to stitch. I just stitched up from with a stitch in the ditch foot, and a stitch in the ditch foot looks like this is a 1/4 inch stitch in the ditch foot. It has a blade in the very center of it. So when you stitch, you can follow right along in a groove, like with the piping. I just stitched about this far out on each of the top petals, and that held all of the petals to the top circle of my pillow. All right. The center circle can be embroidered. You can free motion it if you would like, or you can put it in and use your embroidery machine. And there's instructions on page 3 of your handout about embroidering it and how to you have this circle that has fabric and piping and 1 layer of fusible fleece on it, and you're going to put it in your hoop. With the hoop has stabilizer in it. You put it in your hoop and then find the center of it for your design. And there's some designs suggested in your handout. You can use any design you want, but these are quilting designs, and they are basically a circular size, and they should just fit that circle that's going to go in the middle of your pillow. So once because I had batting, I put batting in my petals because I wanted them to have a little bit of stability. I didn't want them to be really floppy. And then when I had sewn them to the top of my pillow, then there was a space where they didn't meet in the center. So I cut pieces of batting and laid in 3 or 4 layers of it, so it filled up that space and I didn't have a sinkhole in the middle of my pillow. And I put laid one more layer of batting underneath the center circle just to make it a little puffy. And then I just did a stitch in the ditch around the center circle to hold it in place, and that put the whole top of my pillow together then. And then all I had left to do was to put it and the back side, right sides together and stitch around them. And when I make a pillow like this, I always like to, I don't like raw edges. So I like to do something to finish the edge on the fabric so it doesn't get all furry inside. So on this one, I used the serger to go around and to clean up my edges, so I didn't have fuzzies on the inside. Does any of that make sense? Sure. Any questions, comments? Elizabeth? Sandy, did you have something?
Yes, I was thinking of making it as a daisy. Here in Florida, you think of yellow, and that's what I was thinking. Maybe a daisy for my grandchild or something.
Where you would make all the petals the same color?
Maybe yellow of some sort. Yeah, in the center,
Yeah,
maybe
that'd be fine.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would be fine. I mean, you can make it however you want.
Yeah. It just looks like a daisy to me.
Okay, that's great. You can make a sunflower.
Oh, that's what I meant. Gee whiz. You get older and it goes someplace. I meant, yeah, I meant, yeah, sunflower. Thank you. Gee.
Okay.
Uh, sunflower. Yes.
Yeah, and I just made my own pillow form because it seems that probably I couldn't find one that I liked, and you don't want a pillow form that has a boxed edge. You just want a plain edge on it because of the way that the pillow is made.
How much larger would like that pillow form for it? Did you allow for how did you decide what size?
Well, I actually started off with a 15-inch circle, but then I serged. I always, when I make the pillow form, I put the right sides together and I serge until I have about 3 inches left, so I can get my hand in there to stuff it, and then I turn it inside out, or right side out, so that the right side of the fabric is showing and my seam is on the inside. I don't like pillow forms where the seam is on the outside. So I always sew them like you would flip something anyhow. So I made it bigger, and then it was okay if, and did like about a 1/2 inch seam, and it cut part of that off because it was the serger.
Okay. So you just keep filling it until it fills up everything and doesn't have any puckers.
Well, I didn't fill it a whole lot because I didn't want it, the more you fill it, the more it's going to stand out away from the petals. And if that's what you want, that's fine.
Yeah,
But
I
I
see.
didn't really want it to stand out a lot from these petals. So
Yeah.
I didn't stuff it real tight. And then once I have it stuffed, I just tuck the edges in and take it to the sewing machine and just fold that over and sew it.
Okay, thanks.
That's my way of making pillow forms.
Sounds good.
Okay. So are you ready to try putting piping in with a circular attachment?
Oh, yes.
All right. Anything else? Any questions?
No, I had to rip the first one out.
You had to what?
I did one, but it didn't come out right. I had to rip it out already.
Yeah, well, it took me a few tries to get them right. And like I said, the piping that I used on here, the cord was pretty small. And that's why when I said if you're going to make your own piping, to use at least 1/8 of an inch cord, because that will stay. I mean, if the cord is too little, it's going to jump out of that groove in the foot a lot easier.
But that's what I used was 1/8. And I'm going to go see if I can find some bigger because it didn't stay in very good.
Okay. Well, it does take a little bit of practice, particularly since you're kind of sewing blind.
Yeah, because that's what I've got here is 8. I'll try, but I have a lot more different sizes.
Okay.
My problem was the top fabric kept moving on me. So my circle didn't turn out round.
Did you? Oh, yours moved too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, the fabric did.
Got
I
after it.
piping, but it's not round.
Well, you know what? How many flowers do you see that the petals are round? I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, if each one has its own individual shape.
In the
That's-
scheme of things, it's not a big deal. That's true.
And sunflowers, you know, they're not perfect.
Exactly.
So Mary, did your fabric just kind of bunch up a little bit? Is that what was happening?
Right.
Yeah, mine did
I
too.
was concentrating on the piping more than on keeping the fabric.
So maybe if we concentrate more on that's what I was doing too. So I had to rip it all out. But
Yeah.
so maybe if we just worry about the circle, that should follow along, right?
Well, I
Should
don't know. I still keep moving the piping, so,
Well,
but
well,
maybe we
try
need
again.
to go with a partner. One do the fabric and one do the piping.
3 hands.
That's a good tip.
How about if you did the piping first?
Then,
And
Would
Yeah.
that work?
that's what I was saying. You could do the piping on one layer of fabric, but if you do, make sure that you put some stabilizer under that because the fabric's gonna move worse. when
No,
you
I
only-
mean, what if you do the piping and then can you put it between the two? I mean, do the piping by itself.
on one layer of fabric.
No, just do it. Oh, well, just do it on your, no, don't put the fabric, just take the thing off and just do piping.
you didn't sew your piping first like this, right?
Yeah,
I sewed it like this, but you still had to do it. So
Yeah.
you were trying to do it all in one fell swoop. Well,
No, you can't do that. You have to have your piping made first. You
Yeah.
have to have the piping separate with the cord in it and sewn.
well, so if you made the piping, yeah, and then
Right.
put it in there, wouldn't that work better?
That's what I was doing when I was doing the demonstration. And it's, it still wants to bunch up a little. And maybe the instructions say to starch your fabric. And I did put some best press on this, but it's still pretty wimpy. If you starch it pretty well, so it's got a little more stability to it.
Oh,
That
okay. Okay,
So, okay, I didn't understand if you were trying to do it all at once. And if you make your own piping, it should be cut on the bias.
yeah.
You can't cut
I
it on
can do that.
period of braid because to go around the circle, it needs to have the flexibility of being bias.
Okay.
I use
Start over.
I use best press as well. It's flimsy. I might try the Terrio Magic, which can make it pretty stiff.
Yeah. And, theoretically, you could also use a piece of tearaway stabilizer under it too. Because it's going to come out real easily. You've got a straight stitch, so it'll come off easy.
But would that stop the top fabric from bunching up, which is what I was experiencing?
It should help. It won't stop it completely because, the fabric could scoot still on top of the stabilizer.
Yeah. I'll try stiffening it more first.
Okay. That should help. Anything else? I did not, I cut my bias strips at about 1 inch and then made my piping. I did not trim the flange on my piping. And did you trim yours, Mary? Or
No, I didn't. I did the inch. Well, yours looks wider.
well,
So
it was.
it looks
I did this. I know I cut it 1 inch. This is a strip. That was how wide my strip was. For my
maybe
pipe.
yeah, maybe mine didn't. Well, anyway, but no, I didn't cut it off. I used the whole thing and then just trimmed it when I trimmed the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if trimming would make it track easier. I mean, it's biased.
I didn't seem to have trouble with it tracking, although I really, paid attention to it. It was the flower fabric that I was having trouble with.
Yeah, it wants to bunch.
Yeah.
And that's just a characteristic of the circular attachment.
Right. Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, you have to be careful that it wants to scooch toward the pin.
No,
Right.
yeah.
So Liz is putting hers back together now.
Did anybody else try?
As soon as we hang up, I'm going to try it.
Okay.
How
yeah,
many hours is this supposed to take?
Well, it does take a couple, Liz.
Okay.
It does take a couple. Because, yeah, I modified the pattern and the sequence of things a little bit from the way that the lady had done it originally. But
Well, Elizabeth isn't hollering, so maybe it kind of worked.
well, we'll see. How's it going, Liz?
It's in the zone.
Liz Gomer,
What?
how's it going? Were you just making your piping or what?
I made one piping and now I'm gonna do one piping and then do the square and then do one.
All right.
By the
Well,
time I get to the last one, I should be pretty good, right?
right, it does help. The more practice you get.
Okay. So let's try another one here.
Okay.
Mine's gonna be all purples.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Anybody else have comments, questions, experience? Judy, you have any questions?
No, I'm going to have to leave here pretty quick. I'm just listening.
Okay.
You aren't gonna try this?
Not today.
Um, I have piping is one of my favorite things. And no matter what I used to make, like a wall hanging or a quilt or something, I always put piping in it. And it's just, how there's something that just appeals to you, and piping happens to be one of my things.
I
I
love
like it.
piping.
What if you sewed the piping on one piece of fabric on the right side, and
Uh-huh.
then you put the other right side down and sewed from the opposite side, and you squished it in a little? Would that work without seeing the extra stitching?
Well, you wouldn't see the extra stitching.
If you did it close enough to the cording, maybe.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
should
know.
be sewing right on top of your original stitching. But when you do that, the first step of putting it on just one layer of fabric,
Right.
that's when I'm beating the dead horse about putting a piece of good stabilizer, tearaway
Oh,
stabilizer.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Huh.
Because when you do your center circle, it's only one piece of fabric. It's not a
Oh, that's
It's
right.
not a
That's right.
turn thing. It's just one piece of fabric because you don't see the backside of it.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
it's all sewn down, so there's no need to have a second piece of fabric.
I'll let you know next time if I tried it that way, 2 layers
Okay.
or separate layer. I
You
don't
can
know.
pop on Monday and let us know.
Yeah, or maybe I'll fuss like Elizabeth.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, still doesn't seem like she's 90, going to be 90.
No, she doesn't.
You think I'm going to make 90?
Sure, if the piping doesn't.
Of course you are.
I told the doctor yesterday and I said, will I make 91? And he says, I think you probably will. So we'll
Hey,
see.
you should get your machine on the 19th of March just to
Oh,
be safe.
good idea.
So are you going to be 90 this year, Liz?
Yes. In just about a month and a half. No, let's see, May the 4th. That's 2 months away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my birthday is 5432. Isn't that neat?
That is neat.
Oh my, you're blessed. Oh my gosh.
So I should remember that, really.
Oh golly, yeah.
Somebody I know is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Really?
Oh,
January 23rd, 45.
Oh my
wow.
goodness. That makes it easy to remember.
Yeah, when they ask you when's your birthday, you say 5432.
They go, huh?
Gee.
So we should have May's techniques class in person so we can celebrate.
Oh, I'll fly out.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Where are you in Florida?
Spring Hill, north of Tampa.
Oh, yep.
We lived by Daytona 22 years ago. Oops, I got to turn off a timer. Excuse me a second.
Okay.
All right, I put aerial magic on it. I'm going to try it again.
Okay. I don't know if you heard that, Sandy. Mary put Taro Magic on hers to make it good and stiff.
And
And
it's
she's
working, Mary?
just now trying it.
Now starting.
Oh, on both pieces, I'm assuming. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, have you had any trouble with that staining, that Terrio Magic staining some things?
I haven't, no.
I put it on one of the table runners I was doing and it stained it.
Did it not wash out?
Well, I don't want to wash it afterward. I don't know.
Well, I did something and I don't remember whether I used Taro Magic or not, but then it was like a water stain on it
Yeah,
because I hadn't done the whole piece. And I just rinsed it out and it was fine.
well, yeah,
You know,
but if I did this to the whole table run, I hate to. Because what is it? It's probably just like a water thing, right?
yeah, it's just a starch.
Yeah. And the girl that came up with it says she uses it in her hair. So, you know, when she runs out of hairspray, but is it all cotton fabric that you did it with?
What did you say about running out of hairspray?
She used her Terrio Magic, but she also is the one that developed it and owned it, so I haven't done it.
Okay. I don't think it should do that, but Best Press doesn't do that. Or never has. I mean,
Yeah. And I didn't know whether because my ironing board cover needed washing, whether because it picked up something from the ironing board because it was wet.
oh,
So
well,
I don't know whether it was the spray that I used or whether it was a combination. But when I rinsed it out, it went away. My problem went away.
well, I don't worry about it. I just stick it with my stuff. My daughter can get it all when she wants it. She can take care of it. Unless I want to give it to somebody, then I'll take care of it.
Liz, my mother made it to 96, and my
Really?
sister-in-law's 96 now, and she even had COVID in around Thanksgiving.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness,
they're
bless
still
her
doing,
heart.
they're still doing well.
Yes, pretty well. And sometimes her bones are kind of giving away a little bit. A lot
Yeah.
of hurting.
Well, things kind of wear out. I mean,
Yeah.
My mother's 96 also. Yeah.
Yeah,
And my
Wonderful.
grandmother made it
it's
to
not
99.
unusual.
No.
Oh, well, see, most of everybody in my family's died around 80, so I don't know. I can't compare it with anyone.
You're the new gold standard.
Yes.
And my mom made it to 98.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that's fine if I live by myself and the kids don't live here, and I worry about if I can't do anything. I don't want to move. I don't want to go where my son is, which is San Jose, California, which is a horrible place. Or my daughter's in Missouri. That's even worse.
No, I
Well,
vote San
Missouri's
Jose
not
is worse than
bad.
Missouri. My daughter's in San Jose too.
So
Trying to
I
get her
thought,
out of there.
yeah. So my doctor's jobs are to keep me on my feet and either my dog, I want to stay around for my dog too. I have to take care of her.
Gosh.
So that's my doctor's job, is to keep me alive, to take care of my dog and keep me on my feet until I just drop dead.
He's doing a good job, Liz.
What?
I said he's doing a good job, Liz.
You know that the priest that I used to take care of, I asked him one time, I said, so what do you think it's like when we die? And he says, oh, it's going to be so beautiful. He says, I just know, and we'll get all our questions answered. We'll just be in absolute glory. And I thought, oh, that sounds pretty good, right?
Is he still living?
Oh no, he died 10 years ago. He was almost 90 when he died.
He
Well,
didn't come
calling
back
up-
until
Yeah. So, he died very, very peaceful. I was with my mother when she died too, and she just was, it was just everything was just so beautiful. I don't think you really are frightened of it anyway. I just think it's just another new life. That's all.
As long as they have a sew machine.
Yeah. My daughter, she says, well, we'll put your machine and some fabric with you when we bury you. And make sure you put my wig on if my hair keeps getting thinner. I really don't want to be in a casket without hair. So anyway,
Better, Mary.
We work
I think this is going to work.
How did it work, Mary?
it worked good. I liked it being stiff.
Is it working better?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think I actually got a full circle, so we'll cut it now, but
Oh, you did it double.
Well, she did the
Oh, the two,
piece-
okay.
the pedal to turn like
Oh,
this.
okay.
right. Which is what I did the first time, and that top fabric kept moving. This time it was so stiff that, well, I mean, it's stiff. It's a lot stiffer, so it doesn't move.
Oh, what did you use to make it stiffer again?
Carnival Magic.
Carol Magic.
Can you spell it out?
What is it?
It's, let me go get the bottle. It's TERIL Magic.
Real magic. Okay.
We usually have it in the store, but
Yeah, I was thinking that I got it there, but I don't remember.
I think we might be out right now, but I'll put it on the list again.
This is what the bottle looks like.
Got it. Thank you.
Did you water it down? Or you did use it? You didn't, okay. Then just ironed it to dry it?
Yeah,
They tell you you're supposed to let it sit for a little bit and dry natural, and then just before it gets totally dry to iron it. But I ironed it right away.
yeah,
I've
I never
used
wait.
mine yet.
Yeah.
I think at one point the directions said to soak it in it, just,
exactly.
but
Right.
I just spray it on it. I mean, it comes in a spray bottle.
Right. And I think some of it is, it's a lot of it, I don't know if it was designed for it or not, but for cutting machines. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and so I think that's why they were soaking it because that's where I first ran into it, was at a session on a cutting machine.
Okay.
I can't wait to use it as a hairspray.
I don't know, it might be a little humid there in Florida.
Gee. Oh,
And it-
gosh.
If it can get, you might be slamming into people with your hair.
Oh, that's,
You might need to get liability insurance.
I love hairspray.
oh, gosh.
Might be
Judy, I
good for
think
those.
I'm going to leave now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Judy.
Yeah.
Okay,
See you.
bye-bye, everybody.
If you try it, I want to see what you do.
Okay,
All righty. Have a good day.
thank you.
And make my
Bye. I don't see how this is gonna
it's a
turn
tough time getting it out with it stiff.
What was that, Mary?
It's-
It's
I
stiff?
didn't make my opening big enough, so because it's so stiff, I really
Well,
have to look at getting it.
Go ahead and open it up a little more because, you've got a couple inches that you can have it open
I
that you're
know.
going to cover up.
Hey,
I
this
know.
didn't turn out too bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't trim it yet. I just turned it I gotta take it back and trim it.
Yeah.
But
That
that
looks
isn't
pretty
too
good.
bad. So when we get down here, do we just put this in here? We don't have to worry about finishing this off real well?
No, because it's going to get all covered up. I mean, like if you look, where the circle would be down here,
Yeah.
you're covering up.
All
You
right,
know,
so just put it in there and
just
don't, but no, it doesn't have to be a real good finish, right?
no, you don't have to finish it all. Just leave it raw once you've turned it and pressed it.
Okay,
But
okay. Number, I got one done. See, that only took an hour and a half, right?
here's mine.
So,
That's
one.
okay.
Oh, that looks nice.
boy,
If,
that
if
worked.
you want to put batting in yours, you need to fuse the batting. Once you trim it, you need to fuse your batting to it and then turn it.
hey, well, if you put some of that lightweight batting on before you did the circle, wouldn't that work?
Yes, it
Well,
would.
you could, but I don't like batting in my seams. So I want to cut a circle that fits inside stitching. And that was why I said, take your circular attachment and a piece of stabilizer and stitch the size your circle is going to be and use that as a pattern for the batting inside your circle.
What did you put a piece of stabilizer, but not your batting, and then you cut the batting
I
out
made a pattern for my batting.
with stabilizer.
Yes, by using the circular attachment.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, because
Why
then
did
I
we
could
have-
just rip
why did
off the
we-
edge.
Why do we have to have a 150 hoop?
That was because to embroider the center circle,
Oh, if we wanted to embroider it.
if you wanted to embroider it, correct?
Okay. Okay.
If you don't want to embroider it, that's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, I have to go get some pinking shears. Bye.
Oh, look at Miss Marilyn. That looks good. Very
Oh,
good.
Yeah, it worked.
oh, yes.
Did
First
you
one,
stiffen yours with
Pardon?
some? Did you starch your fabric?
I sprayed a little bit, but it's pretty flimsy.
Yeah,
just-
that
I
was why I
sewed slow,
put batting in mine.
That's nice.
Judy, I sewed slow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Marilyn. That's a day we have to mark on the calendar.
Yeah, I set my sewing machine to slow.
You never sew slow.
No, I don't. Oh, and Liz, my mom and my mother-in-law are both 92.
She went off to find some.
Something.
Yes. What size did you make your own piping, Marilyn?
I did, and I used the same fabric as the middle. I wasn't thinking making it different, so.
Yeah. What size cord did you use?
Oh, It's this size. I think it's an 8.
That's pretty good size.
Yeah, it's like an 8 and it's pretty thick, but it stayed in the groove really well.
All right. And I think that's part of the secret to success is to have a fairly decent sized cord.
That's the only size I had. And I had a couple pieces, so we'll see if I have enough to do it. I may have to get more. I was getting things this morning and I happen to have some.
I seem to have bigger cord.
Yeah, I don't know why I had this, what I used it for, because it's not real white anymore. I don't know what it was at the first point, but it's kind of yellow, so I probably had it for a long time.
Well, it's get covered up, so it doesn't matter much.
Nope, that's what I figured.
Well, when you look at the spool and it says it cost $1 and it's a big, huge spool, you know you've had it a while.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say, Mary?
Even the dollar store, I went the other day for something and the stuff cost $1.25 now. So
Yeah.
even the dollar store has gone up.
It's like,
I'm amazed that they managed to stay at $1 as long as they did.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. You're
But
right.
but their cards are still 2 for $1.
Oh. Hmm.
So now you're gonna go. You making your pattern, Mary? You should just be able to rip it off, unless you use cutaway stabilizer.
No, but I used really bold tearaway because that's what I had handy. So,
Okay.
and I started to tear it and it wasn't tearing even. So,
Mm. That's a really easy way to make a circle, even if you're not using it for sewing.
Yeah, I never thought about doing and making a pattern with it, but that's a great idea.
there you go.
All right.
All right.
So you really actually want one a 7-inch. This is my 8-inch, or yeah, this is my center circle pattern. Don't know what happened to my petal pattern.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna now practice on making like the long skinny petals. Like I'm gonna have to do that later, but I just didn't want to start another project. So till I finish some, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, it's always, to me, it's way more fun to start things. But I should be invested in finishing a few of them too.
Oh, you finish a lot. Maybe not your own personal ones, but you sure do finish a lot for us. So
Well, I enjoy doing it.
yeah,
Very much.
keeps the mind going, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's
If
what
you-
I'm telling my husband. That's why I need all the new latest and greatest to keep my mind sharp.
Is he buying it?
I got all the latest and greatest, so
All right. That sounds good.
doesn't give me a hassle. So there you go.
All right.
Yep.
Can we
So,
borrow him?
You might have second thoughts.
Oh, I just meant for the money to buy more stuff.
Oh,
Not on a permanent basis?
No.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. No. All right. So that's
Okay,
kind
anybody
Thank you,
else have
Judith.
any questions?
Nope.
I'm going to
Carol
try it
Foss,
right
are you
now.
okay?
yeah. Okay.
I'm going to do taxes.
Oh,
Mine are done.
Yeah.
so are ours. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like waiting later on, so I've done mine too.
Yeah, well, I owe a lot, so
Uh-oh.
So there's no incentive.
there's no hurry.
Well, and we don't have any deductions or anything, so ours is pretty simple right now. So not like it used to be when we were working and stuff. So,
Yeah. You get to a point where it's just pretty cut and dry.
yep. Yep, that's true. All right, ladies. Well, it was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't wait to try it. Yes.
Carol, Judith.
Okay, well, I would like to see your results.
You
the
will.
next time We're together. And if you want to show up, do something by Monday and come back and jump on class, you're more than welcome to be
that
in
the
both sessions. So.
All right.
She's
We're
laying,
here on the 15th, I know.
she's laying down the challenge, ladies.
Okay. All righty. See you on the 15th for sure.
All right, thank you.
This is fun. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye.
Marilyn. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, Judy, it'll take me till Monday to finish this.
Okay, well, you can jump on class on Monday and show it to us, okay? All righty.
Okay, I
All
will.
righty.
I'll see you.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I don't know if Carol can hear me or not. Carol, can you hear me? No. Carol? We're done. I'll just text her. I can't do this.